Well, they would pay me back 27. If I look at today, on Friday, it'll be a little bit more, but either way, I'm good. So I effectively bought a stock that I liked, $3.50 cheaper than I was willing to buy. Plus, I'm gonna do a covered call, which means within those 2 weeks, any returns up to 38 is mine. Okay? But if it's above 38, if it goes to 48, I'm gonna cry because I could have made 48. But I sold that performance to you. Okay? And for that, you pay me buck 27. So these are not risky strategies. And either way, these are kind of return enhancers, and we're going to actually spend quite a bit of time on what is the proper strike price to use. And we're going to ask ourselves a question, with what probability do you think this put that we call would be exercised? If you're happy with 5% probability, you probably wanted a little bit more out of the money. I go for 15. In fact, if you want to be adventurous, to about 25, 30. That means when it's trading at 34.50, you probably would do a covered call at 35, and a covered put at 32 maybe. Okay. A covered call at 35 gives you 206, much more than 38. But the chances of that then being exercised goes higher. So we need to find ways to calculate those numbers, which is kind of what we're going to do. Doing covered calls, covered puts, and kind of rolling them is kind of an art form. You're probably asking me, why are you doing it only for 2 weeks? Especially for out-of-the-money options, option premium per day is much higher on shorter-term stuff. On longer-term options, and let's look at this. The 38 call, 127, okay? And you have how many days? 18 days left. So I'm gonna be very uncivilized and use a calculator for this. Come on. Mm, 120. Since I'm doing it out of 100 shares, I would effectively be getting an option premium per day of $7, right? Let's do this for May 17th, 102 days. That's 405, it's almost $3 more. I'm getting only $3.97. What was the other one before? Let's call that 4. That was $7. That means if everything stays the same, which is a big assumption, in economics we use a Latin term for that, ceteris paribus, or if you feel adventurous, call it ceteris paribus. Okay? Whereas that means everything else being the same. I used to have an econometrics teacher, and typically in econometrics a lot of things go around. In economics you learn about ceteris paribus, but in econometrics ceteris is never paribus. In option pricing ceteris is never paribus, but it's kind of a thought experiment. If everything remained the same, buying these options, selling these options for 2 weeks, and rolling them over would make you more money. You're probably saying, there are maturities for every week. Why aren't you doing it 1 week? That depends upon the bid offer spreads. Because every time you roll these over, you go through a bid offer spread. For example, let's look at next week's 38. Next week's 38 is 65 cents. This is actually a little bit less. That's probably because maybe February 23rd, 38 had spreads. Yeah, it has a little bit more spread. Usually don't look at these things while the market is closed. But the general idea is there is a bid offer spread. A bid offer spread of 2 cents when you're getting 127 is actually a lot less compared to a bid offer spread of 2 cents when you're getting 65. Okay? Think of it, you're gonna do that twice, right? You're gonna basically lose $4 by crossing that bid offer spread. And here, you cross it only once. But certain stocks, it's so liquid, typically bid offer spreads are always 1 cent. And if the option price is not too low, I would go for a weekly rollover. 2 week is kind of I don't want to have to deal with that every week, so I'm doing it 2 weeks. As you may have noticed, I do have a day job. I do a lot more frequent trades during summer and stuff. During school year, I just put these kinds of options. They always expire on Fridays. Fridays I don't teach, so I can pay attention to those and decide what to do next. All right. You do know what options are, but do you have any idea how to price it? Okay. Well, that depends on a lot of stuff. A, what kind of option they are. Is it a call option or a put option? Is the stock expected to pay a dividend during the life of the option? That matters because options in the US are not adjusted for dividends, except for the case of special dividends. And out of nowhere, Apple decided they're going to pay $20 per share dividend. They just didn't want to pay the cash. For those, it's facing less. But their regular expected dividend, the strike price is not adjusted. Think of it this way. I mean, stock sell is not paying much of a dividend, but let's say they did. They're going to pay $2 dividends. As soon as dividend is paid, the stock is going to trade ex-dividend $2 lower. But your strike was at 35. Let's say right now the option was right at the money. That means current price is the same thing as the strike price. Tomorrow the stock is going to start trading at 33, but your strike is still 35. Suddenly your option is going to actually lose value. Well, if that's going to happen, then you actually account for that in the beginning and pay less for it. The civilized thing to do would have been adjusting the strike price. But if and when that happens, suddenly strike goes down to 33. But they're not doing it. It's the market we're trading in, not the market we'd like to trade in. It's even worse when there are splits. They kind of create a special option for stocks that are before splits, and the market for them becomes kind of thin. Robinhood is especially bad with those. So if you know that ahead of time, during the life of the option, the stock that you're dealing with is going to have a big split or reverse split, stay away from that. Because Robinhood puts you in a special class, and suddenly all the liquidity goes away. In fact, you can't even buy new options. You can only cover whatever you have. It did happen to me once or twice. And typically I got lucky. Sometimes Robinhood puts a lot of bids. And I just was already in the money quite a bit. I just dumped it on them and basically reopened the position in the now proper one. But it could have been bad. All right. Oh, there are also not only options are distinguished by whether you get the right to buy or right to sell, but you also divide them into two categories based on whether that right to buy or sell can be exercised anytime until expiration. If that is the case, we call that an American option or American style option. As you may have guessed, almost all of the options that trade in American exchanges are American. The other alternative is you can exercise only at expiration. That is called the European option. There are in between, in fact, people have funny way of naming these things. There are these options that give you, it's not anytime you want, but there are predetermined dates between the time option created and it's going to expire. You can actually exercise on those days. Guess what kind of option that is called? What's between US and Europe? Or Americas and Europe? Not much, right? Think of the Upper Antilles and Lower Antilles as part of the Americas. Think of the Azores and Canary Islands as part of Europe. There is only kind of a one little island, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, that's between US and Europe. That's Bermuda. Hence, those options are called Bermudian options.